In this unit, we will study the difference between adverbs and modifiers of nouns. Modifiers of nouns in Japanese include I forms of I-adjectives, Na forms of Na-adjectives, and nouns followed by no among others. 新しい車、安全な車、日本の車。Adverbs consist of diverse categories. Many of them will just have to be memorized. However, some are systematically derived from others. Ku forms and ni forms are adverbial forms. 車は長く使いたい。車は安全になった。There are similarities between English adverbs and Japanese adverbs. Generally speaking, adverbs modify categories other than nouns, both in English and Japanese. Adverbial forms of Japanese adjectives partly correspond to English adjectives with li. その考えが重くのしかかりました。ビルが新しく建ちました。Here, ku forms of I adjectives correspond to li forms. Here, ni forms of na adjectives corresponds to li forms. プレゼントを丁寧に包みました。このサインは明らかに違います。However, the distribution of Japanese adverbial forms and that of English adverbial forms are not exactly the same. In the subsequent section, we will study two areas that are confusing to English speakers. First, in English, an identical expression can be used as an adverb and as a modifier of a noun. By contrast, Japanese employs two different forms for these. スズメのように食べます。スズメのような鳥。In order to correctly use such expressions, you need to pay attention to the identities of what precedes and what follows. スズメのよう is an adjective. When it modifies a verb, use ni. スズメのように食べます。If it modifies a noun, use na. スズメのような鳥。Similarly, このロボットは人間のように話します。こんにちは。人間のようなロボットを作りました。This type of contrast recurs elsewhere. English prepositional phrases are used both as adverbs and modifiers of nouns. The blue part in one is an adverb. You can move it away from the noun without changing the meaning. The blue part in two is a modifier of a noun. It cannot be separated from the noun without affecting the meaning in a strange way. Corresponding Japanese phrases take different forms depending on the function. 事務所が3階にあります。私は3階の事務所へ行きました。There is another area of confusion. First, check these examples. 砂糖を入れて甘くしました。駅前がきれいになりました。Although we said that ku forms and ni forms roughly corresponds to Lee forms of English adjectives. The correspondence seems to break down here. Adverbial forms are used in Japanese, whereas basic forms of adjectives are used in English. The previous contrast is due to the following circumstances. In English, the basic form sweet is used for this sentence because the lemonade is sweet as a result of the action. In Japanese, the criterion is whether or not a verb or something like a verb follows. If an adjective precedes a verb that it modifies, you must use the ku form. This is parallel to the case we saw in page 7.
砂糖を入れて甘くしました。
The negative forms of adjectives also utilize adverbial forms.
あんまり酸っぱくありません。
Here are some more examples of how to use adverbial forms of adjectives.
前の方を短く切ってください。名前は大きく書いてください。祖母は若く見えます。友達が日本に帰って寂しく思いました。
And here are more examples of how to use adverbial forms of Na-adjectives.
押しボタンの位置は不便に思いました。この韓国人の俳優は日本で有名になりました。
You can stop here and come back after Unit 41. This time, use a dialogue-style sentence plus yoni, also a kind of adverbial form of a na-adjective.
子供が落ちないように柵をしました。みんなで食べられるようにたくさん作りました。
You can combine the adverbial forms of an adjective and an I-adjective. If you are one of the students closer to you in the picture, what would you say?
みんなに見えるように大きく書いてください。
Similarly, you can combine an adjective and an I-adjective to modify a noun. How would you describe the billboard?
誰でも見えるような大きい看板でした。